Yeah, I want to talk a little bit about the Beck Protocol and chronic fatigue syndrome. It's kind of like, well, it's not exactly a disease, it's a syndrome. It's like people feel tired and they say, I don't know why I always feel tired every day. So they call it chronic fatigue syndrome, right? It's kind of like one of those things, could be from so many different things, you really don't know. It could be like a bug, some kind of parasite or microbe that's bringing your system down a little bit. Oh, it could be a lack of a vitamin. It may be just a matter of forcing yourself to exercise more during the week, and your energy levels will go up. But a lot of people seem to have this. It's called chronic fatigue syndrome, and it's real. They just don't have the energy they want to have. And well, I'm going to say, from looking at feedback from the Beck Protocol, and I'm actually wearing a device right now. Here's one of them, right? This is made by Bioelectric, actually. The one thing that seems where a lot of people do testimonials as to, it's a testimonial. It's not really like a scientific double-blind study. A lot of people who do the Beck Protocol, after a while, they say they feel better. They feel like they have more energy. So I guess is one thing that actually seems to work pretty good for is this so-called chronic fatigue syndrome. In the Beck Protocol, just to review, if you look back, you look at Dr. Beck's videos, he makes some pretty, strong claims. First off, I would not do the Beck Protocol in lieu of getting professional medical treatment. I think that's a major mistake. Like, in other words, if you have cancer, HIV, or you have some leukemia, you have, Hep C, you got some, bad thing, right? Well, the Beck Protocol, Dr. Beck, or Dr. Beck Ph.D., not an MD, a very intelligent man, and he seems to be honest. He says to stop all medications before you start doing this protocol. The reason he says that is because this electric device, let me turn it on. This one has an indicator light. If you set it on, if you have his standard device has a setting called 4 hertz. It's like a blood electrification device, right? And it's based upon a patent that was by Dr. Lyman and Dr. Colley, K-A-A-L-I, Lyman, L-Y-M-A-N, in the Albert Einstein College of Medicine, New York City in the early 1990s. What it's supposed to do is stun viruses, pathogens, bacteria, so basically they can't adhere to and penetrate new healthy cells and thus multiply. And since they're left in the bloodstream and the lymph system, the body's immune system takes care of them because they're vulnerable. It's like viruses and stuff, when they get inside a cell, that's when they multiply, and they use it as they're a parasite that uses the cell to multiply, right? Well, that's what the theory is behind the device. But he says not to do any medicines, and I don't like that advice, but I'm going to tell you there's a way around this, because be patient with me, hopefully. Hopefully I'm not losing people, because I think there's a happy medium with this Beck Protocol. It's not as good as he said, but I don't think it has. I think it has merit. That's my opinion, though. He says, when you're using this 4 hertz setting, that means it goes positive, negative. It's an AC current running about 190 millionths of an amp, 0.19 microamps. Very, very low amperage, AC. It goes at 4 hertz a second. That means it goes positive, negative 4 times a second. What happens with that setting is that the blood temporarily becomes more absorbent to medications and things like even aspirin. So if you take an aspirin, it's like taking a few aspirins. It's so you can overdose on the medication while you're using this device on 4 hertz. But actually, it was Mike down here with Bioelectric. He modified the device so you have other settings. You can put it on 10 hertz. There's less of a problem with that. And if you put it on 40 hertz, you're not going to have a problem where the cells become more absorbent to medications. Thus, you can use this blood electrifier while taking standard medications without a problem. So, that's the one thing I like about this particular device, because you can take the standard medications if your doctor says, you need to take this or that, you can do it, and you can do the Beck Protocol at the same time as an adjunct to your traditional medicines. It's harmless, this microelectricity. But where most people seem to give a lot of good feedback about this, if you look at review sites where they bought the product, say on Amazon, and you look, that's the Soda Instruments one, which only has the 4 hertz. The one that has 40 hertz and 10 hertz settings, optional, is Bioelectric. And I'll put the link in the info box. I don't sell for them. I don't get any. I'm not doing any kind of commissions. I just bought about 6 or 7 of his devices, and I use them. I've been using them for the last couple of years, and I think they work pretty good. But I'm going to also relay where I think my energy levels went up a lot from using the Beck device, the Beck design zappers. Now, the Beck protocol is actually 4 parts. It's taking colloidal silver. I do a little bit of that every day. I do a lot of zapping, the blood electrification. That's the second part. The other part is to drink ozonated water. I use a Synergy Systems WPS-100. It's a single stage ozonator and I just use ambient air to feed the air into it, but it's a good quality ozonator. I make ozonated water with that. That helps wake you up, and it helps get rid of some of that tired feeling. Now, I want to give you a little more information about the ozonated water. You do not breathe the ozone directly. The EPA itself says it is harmful to the lungs, but using the single stage ozonator and starting with ambient air is not making very powerful ozone. You're okay if you don't breathe it directly. It's not that strong. There's strengths of ozone where you're starting out with pure ozone, pure oxygen, and you're putting it through a dual stage ozonator. If you put it up against plastic, it would actually eat the plastic away. That type of stuff you got to be very careful with, but I don't make that kind of stuff. I use a single stage ozonator and ambient air to start with. It's not pure oxygen. Like ambient air has, I think, 28% oxygen or thereabouts. So it's not like an incredibly strong ozone. And I don't breathe it directly. And I just drink it out of the water. That's the third part. And the fourth part is the magnetic pulsar. I have one of those. But I think the main thing to help me with energy levels was the zapping, the blood electrification. Now I have this on both wrists, and if you notice, if I take one of these clips off, the red light goes off. You put it back on, the red light goes on. And Mike, who makes this, he's a former Texan. He's down in South America, who makes these. He sells them globally. He's the only one that has his indicator light that I know of, and he's the only one that has where you can have the 40 hertz setting, and you can take meds with it at the same time and do the blood electrification. Now, I'm going to say that, excuse me, I'm going to say though, I've always been like an exercise freak, like a lot of cardio. I did a lot of running. I used to run 8 miles in the afternoon, do like 40-mile, 50-mile bike rides the same day, later on in the evening, 100-mile bicycle rides on the weekends, like in one day. And I got back into the extreme cardio several years ago. It was actually in January of 2007. And I started doing 3 hours a day on the elliptical machine at a true cardio rate. Every day, 365 days a year. And sometimes it was even 4 or 5 hours. That much. A lot of people said that was way too much. And I stayed at that level every single day from January 2007 to about mid-2011. So for years, never missed a day. And I started backing off. Sometimes I was doing 2 hours, because a lot of people were saying, that's excessive. But I noticed I didn't have the same energy levels I had before. And sometimes a lot of times I was doing 100 minutes, because that's where the machine reset, which was an hour and 40 minutes. Well, I started using this device on both ankle to ankle and wrist to wrist. I have this on wrist to wrist, and I can show you, link up a video here where how to do the ankle to ankle method while you're cardioing and stuff. Using it overnight, and my energy levels went way up again. I was having absolutely no problem doing 3 hours of cardio, even if I did a lot of physical manual labor during the day. And I don't know why that is. I'm just saying that's what happened. But you know, a lot of people who do the Beck Protocol say it makes them feel better. And I don't know if that's like a totally subjective thing, but if you got like leukemia or something like that, or you got some really bad Hep C, AIDS, cancer, and all these things that Beck says this protocol conquers, there's a lot of other people that say it doesn't really do the job. So I think the truth is with the Beck Protocol is it's kind of like in between here. You know, it kind of does, it's doing something. And you know, as a layman and as an end user who's been using these devices for a few years, I think it does do something. You know, it's like, I think the actual, and this is my opinion, you know, I think the truth is, you know, somewhere between what Beck says and Dr. Beck, PhD, says, and what other people say, where they say it's total quackery. I think the truth is actually right there in the middle someplace. Because the energy levels seem to be there. Now, I don't know why that is. This is supposedly, the theory is it's supposed to help the body, assist the body in knocking out microbes. That's the theory per the patent. I don't know if it really does that much, or maybe, you know, there's another thing is that I read someplace on the internet, but I just have to say, I'm trying to figure out why the heck I actually feel the better energy levels, and I swear it ain't my imagination. But that's doing a lot of zapping. And before I get on about a lot of zapping, you have to work up with this. You start out slow. You do 20 minutes a day, 30 minutes a day. You take a few weeks to work up to a couple hours a day. You don't start all at once. That's a major problem if you start out doing a whole bunch at once. But when I worked up, where I was doing a lot of it a day, and I was using 2 electrifiers overnight, ankle to ankle and wrist to wrist, my energy levels did go way up. Because for some reason, I was not able to do a couple hours of cardio sometimes, or, you know, it was a lot of times it would hit 100 minutes, and that was it. And sometimes it hit the 3 hours. But when I started doing 2 electrifiers overnight, I was doing 3 hours a day every single time. I don't know. I don't know what the reason is. So, now, I've read on the internet, to get back to that story, and I don't know if this is good information, but it could make sense. You know, a lot of times we get from cell phones and like wireless communications and laptops, they show that the red blood cells clump together. You know, if you look at it under a microscope. Now, I'm not a doctor or scientist, but it's like I realize there's harmful, you know, things from frequencies, and there's probably good things from frequencies. What I've read is that doing this blood electrification with this Beck design current a long time causes the red blood cells to unclump, which therefore allows the red blood cells, the cells, to produce more ATP, which is basically the energy that works in the mitochondria of the cells, the energy sacs. So that's why you're getting more energy. I don't know if that's the reason, but I have to say that if you're doing this zapping a lot with the, you know, it seems to improve after you work up to it. It seems to improve your energy a lot. And if you look like at reviews, like on say Amazon.com, where who sells the devices or whatever, a lot of people say their energy, they feel better. So I don't know, you know, I don't know exactly what the hell this damn thing does. I would not count it, like if you have, say, cancer of the stomach or something, right? I would not go and think that the zapper is going to cure it. I would not trust that to do that. You know, Dr. Beck made some pretty strong claims on this thing. The reason he did that, though, was because he was terminally ill himself with cancer. He was in a wheelchair. He was, 80 pounds overweight. He was going to die. And he found out about this patent and he found a way to electrify the blood by, using these things on the outside on the wrist. And just to explain, it's a stainless steel electrode that's wrapped in cotton cloth, and it's wet with tap water, so it conducts electricity. And when you basically, this has the indicator light. When I take this off, the electricity is not going wrist to wrist, and I feel nothing. It's very low. It's 0.19 microamps. It's 19% of a thousandth of an amp. It's very, very low. But according to the patent, it's enough to stun viruses so they can't infect new healthy cells, according to the patent. But some of the things, now, I think Beck said this because he somehow miraculously recovered from terminal cancer. He dropped 80 pounds, he felt great, the cancer all went away, and he says it was from doing this. So he wanted to tell the world. I think the guy was being honest. He wasn't making any money off this. But the other side of it is, I don't know why that happened. Maybe somebody up there just decided, I'm going to cure this guy, and it was a fluke. Because if you have cancer and you do not go to a doctor and you just say, I'm going to totally just try this and don't do any meds or don't anything else, you could be screwing yourself up. And that goes for like HIV, that goes for Hep C, that goes for leukemia, you know what I mean? It goes for all these other bad things that supposedly the Beck Protocol sometimes, they say it can cure. But on the other side of it is, it seems to help with stuff, with energy levels especially. I don't know why. But there seems to be a pretty good, I'm not going to even say it seems to be, a lot of people who do the Beck Protocol say they feel better after a while. They feel like they have more energy. They seem to have less symptoms from whatever the hell it is that's bothering them. And what it seems to work on best, where you see the most testimonials, is this chronic fatigue syndrome, which could be from anything practically. It could be from a lack of vitamin B12 to, I don't know, it could be anything. It could be, not getting enough fresh air. I don't know, because it's like it could be, they call it a syndrome. It's not actually like a measurable disease. It could be a disease that's causing it, but it could be a number of things. But, I want to actually put out some more accurate information about this Beck Protocol, because on one hand, there's people that say it's a total fraud, which I don't think it is. And on the other side, there's people that say that the medical establishment is suppressing this, and that this is the real truth. And it can't get out because there's a big money racket out there. Now, I do know that the medical people make a lot of money, and they would not appreciate all their business being taken away. But let me put it to this way. It's not something that's being stifled that much, because if it was true, guess what? It would have already been known by a lot more people. So my opinion on it, though, is that it's a help. But considering that 70% of Americans, from my statistics that I understand, are on some type of medication, and if probably of the 30% that are remaining, they probably take Advil, Tylenol, or Motrin, or something else like that. You want to have a device that you can use while you take medication. The only one I know of that you could do that with is the one that's made by Bioelectric, and you could set it on the 40 hertz setting. Now, this wire that's like this with this tape, I made this because I use this unit a lot, and I made an extremely strong reinforcement here with some, very strong tape, because I use much heavier wires. I just want to say that the unit does not come with this type of wire. It comes as this with a different type of wire. But I use it when I work out. So I tend to be pretty, moving like this a lot, and I tend to break things on it because I'm constantly moving with the wires on and all this type of stuff. And so I made a new electrode wires, so that will outlast anything for the next 10 years, I'd say. But, I just want to put that out there. But as far as chronic fatigue syndrome and making you feel better and making you have more energy, there seems to be a lot of good feedback about the Beck Protocol with that. So I can't guarantee that that's going to happen, but I know in my own personal experience, I was getting kind of pissed off that I wasn't hitting the 3 hours a day cardio every day. And when I started doing a lot of this blood electrification, I had no problem doing that again. And that's what happened. And I was kind of surprised because I said, well, that's one good thing about it. That's pretty cool. That's just my own little personal testimony, but I don't know why. I don't know why that it is. I have no idea. I have no idea why. But you'll see if you look on the internet as to people who say, did it make them feel better? Did they feel like they had more energy or something? It seems to work that way. But I have no scientific reason to know why that's doing that other than some things I read about unclumping the red blood cells and having them maybe produce a little more ATP to produce more energy, whereas more the mitochondria in the cells, the energy sacs of the cells are working more efficiently. So, but I want to put this out here because I think I want to give some very honest information about it, and it's something I can actually comment on where I say for real, because I was like, at first when I was getting more energy levels, I was thinking maybe that's a fluke. But then it lasted the next week, and I says, damn, that's weird. And then one time I started cardioing at 11 o'clock at night because I was doing all this physical work during the day, and I got a really late start, and I says, man, no way in hell am I going to be able to do from 11 o'clock into 2 o'clock in the morning 3 hours of cardio. And I had no problem doing it. So I have to say that has to do with the zapping stuff. That's what I think anyway. So for chronic fatigue syndrome, the Beck Protocol and the zapping might be a pretty good idea. It might be. For something serious, I would definitely not rely on this. But you might want to try in conjunction with your medical doctor's treatments by getting a device that you can set the Beck zapper on 40 hertz. In this way, there's no problems with taking medications or no interference with that, and you won't have any problems where the medications absorb too quickly. And one other thing, this thing takes 4 batteries. What I use in this device, and since it can handle like even a little bit extra oversized 9-volt batteries, they have these 9-volt rechargeable batteries that are 9.6 volts. I use 4 of those, and they will last as long as alkaline batteries, and you can recharge them at least a couple hundred times. So basically, once you buy this device and you buy the correct, good quality rechargeable batteries, I use 9.6 volt types, you basically don't pay nothing. After that, it's years and years later, it works fine. So that's why I think for the money, it's a good thing. But just realize that there's limitations to it. And I think Beck, because he got, his cancer went into remission for some reason, that might have been a fluke. Because I think if somebody had cancer and they tried this and they relied on this and they didn't do an operation, you don't want to do that. You want to go to your doctor, but if you get the 40 hertz setting type unit, you could still try the blood electrification with your normal treatments, and you shouldn't have any problems. So, it's the best of both worlds, let me put it that way.